I'd been eyeing that plot of land for what felt like forever, 3 solid years of scraping together every penny from my construction gigs, dreaming of the off-grid haven Sarah and I could finally call our own. It was 2 acres of untouched Florida scrubland in Pine County, way outside the Willowbrook HOA's nosy reach, where I could hammer together the modest ranch-style home we'd sketched out on napkins back when we tied the knot. As a guy who'd spent 2 decades swinging a hammer under the relentless sun, I knew the ins and outs of permits and setbacks better than most. Hell, the county zoning office had emailed me confirmation just days before closing. Parcel 987654321 clear skies, no HOA strings attached. I'd printed that bad boy and tucked it in my glove box, a talisman against whatever curveballs life might throw. Little did I know, I'd be flashing it like a badge before the ink on the deed was even dry. It was a sticky Tuesday afternoon in late spring 2024, the kind where the humidity clings to your skin like a bad habit, and I was still parked in my dusty F-150 outside the title company, firing off a giddy text to Sarah about our fresh start. That's when I spotted her Margaret Hayes, our self-appointed Willowbrook queen bee, storming across the cracked asphalt like a hurricane with heels. HOA president didn't even begin to cover it. Margaret moved through life like the whole subdivision was her personal fiefdom, every mailbox and manicured lawn bowing to her whims. She was clutching a sheaf of papers, her cheeks flushed that telltale crimson of a woman on a mission to ruin someone's day. I cracked my window, forcing a neighborly smile, but she didn't waste a breath on pleasantries. "You can't touch that dirt," she bellowed, jabbing her official document through the gap like a bayonet. "It's sacred ground, a protected historic burial site, and I've got the full weight of state law behind me to stop you cold." The thing looked legit at a glance. Crisp letterhead from the Community Heritage Enforcement Board, gold embossed seals, a parade of signatures that screamed authority. She ranted on about ancient remains and preservation mandates that overrode any puny property deed, capping it off with a bombshell. "Pony up $50,000 in heritage compliance fees, or kiss your build goodbye while she's sick Tallahassee on my ass." It was so absurdly theatrical, I nearly chuckled, except her eyes burned with this feral conviction, like she'd rehearsed the whole spiel in front of her bathroom mirror. That's when Elena Vargas shuffled out from her bungalow across the way, her arms loaded with file folders and that no-nonsense squint she reserved for historical BS. Elena chaired the local Heritage Society, a walking encyclopedia of Pine County lore, and she'd clocked more dusty archives than I'd nailed 2x4s. "Hold your horses, Margaret," Elena called, her voice steady as a surveyor's line. "I've pored over every plot map from here to the Gulf, and that parcel? Not a whisper of graves." Neighbors trickled out like moths to a porch light, drawn by the spectacle, as Margaret doubled down, screeching about transcendent protections, and Elena being some agenda-pushing hack. But something nagged at meth certificate's polish fell off, too glossy for a volunteer busybody. Then Jack Harlan's cruiser growled into his driveway next door, the retired detective-turned-deputy stepping out in full uniform, his notebook already flipping open. Jack didn't charge in. He just leaned against his hood, jotting notes on Margaret's fee demands and state authority bluster, his face a mask of professional poker. "Folks," he drawled finally, loud enough to slice the chaos. "Best log every word here. Zoning's got channels for this, and preservation claims? They don't fly on hot air." He locked eyes with me. "Keep those emails handy, buddy. And everything else." The subtext hit like a gut punch. Jack smelled fraud, and Margaret's swagger cracked just a hair under his stare. My phone pinged right then, an unknown number. Don't buy her paper trail. Dig into her background. I scanned the gawkers, but no one met my gaze. Jack caught the flicker in my expression and tipped his chin toward his pad, where he'd scrawled her exact threats. It felt like the first crack in a dammy quiet land grab had just ignited a powder keg, and Jack's quiet vigilance whispered that Margaret wasn't new to this rodeo. By dawn the next day, I was nursing black coffee on my sagging porch when Elena marched over, her satchel bulging with yellow deeds and plats that smelled of attic dust. "Alex, she's not spinning yarns out of thin air, twisting history like a pretzel," she said, sliding into the rocker beside me, her voice laced with that righteous fire. She unfurled scans of her ancestors' 1920s homestead grant, the ink faded but ironclad, then slapped down Margaret's doctored knockoffs. Crude cut and paste, slapping sacred markers onto the originals. My great-grandpa never flagged a damn burial. He was too busy wrangling gators. But Margaret? She waltzed in from up north 2 years back and started raiding restricted files, slapping on phony stamps like it's arts and crafts hour. The betrayal stung Margaret, preying on Elena's bloodline for a shakedown. It boiled my blood hotter than a July forge. We were knee-deep in Elena's exposé when footsteps crunched gravel, and there was Margaret, towing an old-timer I vaguely knew as Mr. Ellis from the cul-de-sac. He looked like a puppet on frayed strings, launching into a rehearsed sob story about witnessing Elena's kin etch holy crosses on those very maps decades ago. Ellis kept darting glances at Margaret for cues, sweat beading despite the morning chill, fumbling props that screamed photocopy scam. Elena let him wind down, then dismantled him with surgical calm. Mr. Ellis, you relocated from Michigan last fall, right? And my great-grandpa? He passed in 28-30 years before your folks even met. So tell me, how did toddler vet those ancient charts? Ellis crumbled like wet sand, stammering as Margaret yowled about oral legacies overriding facts. Then the hammer fell. I'm sorry, Elena. Ellis muttered, eyes on his shoes. She slipped me $200 to peddle this crap and swear it was gospel. Margaret's face twisted into a gargoyle snarl, but the jig was up. Jack had strolled over mid-meltdown, his pen flying across fresh pages as Ellis spilled about the scripted lies and forged seals. Neighbors clustered, phones aloft, capturing Margaret's descent into conspiracy rants. Another buzz from the ghost number. She's run this hustle before. Probe Evergreen Acquisitions Incorporated. Jack's nod said it all this wasn't isolated. It was a web, and I'd snagged a thread. 2 days later, sweat-soaked in my garage amid stacks of lumber, I clocked Margaret striding up with a silver-haired gent in khakis and a clipboard, a laminated badge glinting like fool's gold. Mr. Donovan, State Heritage Liaison retired, but still on call for sites like yours, he boomed, unfurling a tripod and rattling off Florida Heritage Council regs that'd delay my pour by half a year, fine stacking like cordwood. Margaret beamed like a proud puppeteer, her expert droning about archaeological sweeps and Austin-level approvals. Wait, Austin? Florida, lady. Elena rolled up mid-monologue, zeroing in on the lingo slip. Pardon, but your badge reads Florida Heritage Enforcement Division. Last I checked, it's the Florida Historical Commission. Care for your state ID so I can ping headquarters? Donovan's polish-peeled fast-fumbled creds, a Gmail official handle that screamed spam. Elena dialed the real commission on speaker, their rep dismantling him live. No such department, no rogue visits sans badges and warrants. Donovan folded like a cheap lawn chair. She paid me $300 to play inspector badge, forms, the works. Thought it was just neighborhood theater. Worse, Elena clocked him as Ellis's sidekick from the porch fiasco. Jack's voice dropped an octave. That's impersonation, felony territory federal, if it crosses wires. Margaret paled, edging back, but the text pinged again. Health crisis inbound. Her sob stories? Pure fiction. I figured she'd slink off to lick wounds, but Margaret? She was a stormfront building. Mid-morning coffee the next day, and there she was, crumpled on her stoop in a torrent of mascara-streaked wails that could curdle milk. Elena hustled over, heartstrings tugged, but I hung back. The timing reeked of script. You monsters, Margaret howled at me through sobs, waving dog-eared bills like war flags. David got pulverized on a site last year, shattered spine, rehab eating us alive. We've bled our nest egg dry, insurance ghosting claims, the bank circling our roof. That 50 grand, it's our lifeline, or we're homeless while he wastes away. She painted a nightmare. Surgeons dooming David to a wheelchair, liens gnawing at their equity, impossible triage between meds and meals. It gutted. My neighbors teared up, murmuring about GoFunds and casseroles. David limped out, gaunt and braced, his rasp selling the agony like a pro. He steadied her shoulder, murmuring, "You didn't have to air our dirt. Honey hate pity parties." But cracks showed, a forgotten limp when his back turned, a clear-throated phone chat mid-act. Whispering in my ear during her bill spiel, "Watch your step." Alex. Margaret turns feral when backed into corners. It chilled me more than the con sounded like a warning from inside the cage. She slid over a slick settlement, signed for the 50, dropped the bill beef, and harmony reigns. The crowd's eyes bored in, branding me the Grinch for hesitating. My pen hovered when Elena yanked me aside. Pump the brakes. Verify first real pain doesn't rush a wire transfer. Grudgingly, I stalled, citing lawyer review. The phantom text sealed it. Halt. Injury staged. David's fine. Proof en route. No cash. Morning broke with a deputy on my mat, slapping me with a temporary injunction from Margaret. I'd allegedly snarled, "I'll bury you and that gimp husband, and stress him to death. I smell a faker." Court-stamped quotes twisted my gut. The 500-foot no-fly zone painted me the thug preying on the afflicted. Backlash hit like a squall. Social feeds lit up with "How could Alex bully a cripple?" Folks veering wide. Sarah home in sobs from PDA whispers about our monster marriage. Margaret had weaponized mercy, flipping the script so her crocodile tears drowned truth. That night, Jack wrapped my slider, dossier in hand, his jaw set like weathered oak. This tragedy synced too neat. Been sleuthing since her waterworks. He mapped evergreen acquisitions, snatching 4 Pine County pads at fire sale rates amid catastrophes. A phantom blaze gutting the Bennett's split level in 23, a bogus deluge rotting the Carver's foundation last summer, and a whispered blast scaring the Daltons into dumping their bungalow this winter. All victims sang the same tune, Margaret swooping in as the angel of mercy, peddling quick flips to her shell company while fear choked their options. Jack's picks. Pristine rehabs flipping for double, no scars from the doom. She scouts real wosabits, posts then amps M211, reeling in the desperate. As he rapped, my burner buzzed long form. Can't endure her grip anymore. She's plotting uglier, now the injunction's bait. I'll spill all. Docs on her disaster mills, coerced players. Midnight, Oaks behind Riverside Elementary. Solo. Proofs ironclad. Jack's brow furrowed at the screen inside her dirt like that screamed coerced cog or scarred survivor. Staring at Evergreen's blood trail, I clocked it. My plot wasn't heritage beef. It was target practice for Margaret's empire of engineered ruin. $50,000 the toll, or a forced flip her prize. Midnight under the moss-draped oaks, pulse thundering like a jackhammer. I nearly bailed when a shadow uncoiled on the splintered bench. David Hayes, hollow-eyed and quaking, the man I'd pitted now my spectral guardian. "Alex, it's meth texts." "I'm cracking. She'll sniff me out soon." The revelation landed like a freight train. David, puppeteered for years in Margaret's theater of the damned, texting salvation from her clutches. She's owned me since 22 wallets, whispers, walls between me and the world. Used my old stage days to fake these farces, stalking feeds for folks' mid-nightmare, then twisting knives deeper for leverage. He dumped a satchel of horrors, petitions bloated with 50 forged scrawls, cribbed from Willowbrook roll calls, her practice pads a forger's fever dream. Plan to wave him at zoning hole, hood backs the graves to bury your permit for good. Elena's canvas run next morn scorched it. House to house grilling, for in 5 swearing ignorance, fury rippling like brush fire. Her backyard powwow that dusk. 40 souls, projector humming as Elena aired the fakes. Daltons and crew piling on with gut-wrench gut punches. Margaret mining a kid's leukemia scare for Dalton dirt. Bennett's chemo haze for financial hooks. Margaret crashed the gate, expecting backslaps, but faced a tribunal. Her pivot? Volcanic. You're all in cahoots to gut us. Finger-jabbing litanies of payback, cresting in a shriek that froze blood. I'll torch this snake pit before you steal my legacy. Jack's radio crackled deputies in a blink, cuffs snapping as Margaret bayed "frame job" from the squad car. Trail cams I'd rigged per Jack's nudge caught her 2 a.m. caper 2 nights prior. Black-clad, backpack bristling with faux relic shards, spade, sat-naventering artifacts, with mutters of media spins, and my surrender. Receipts synced flawless. Her card at the depot for the gear, GPS pings damning as a confession. HOA hall erupted next eve, 30-odd crammed in. Jack's reel rolling her midnight madness to stun silence, then roars. Bennett's stormed in mid-reel, their saga mirroring mine. Margaret's, aid, a Trojan horse for thievery. She barreled through doors last, denial fracturing to venom. Deep fakes. I'll raise you all. Phone's word. Jack summoned the storm. Her arrest a cathartic thunderclap. Headlines blared by breakfast. Willowbrook tyrant netted in heist ring. Trail vids viral. Evergreen iced. Her nest foreclosed amid probes. David? Booted from his teller gig, but buoyed by whispers of coercion. Diving into therapy as the hood rallied. Charges snowballed. 5 fraud felonies for the flipped families. Bogus filings for my TRO. Trespass for the plant. Terror for the blaze. Vow witnesses stacked like cordwood. Healing bloomed raw. Victim huddles weekly. Elena's bake sale. Netting council cash. Reforms ironclad vetting. Audits. Transparency to starve future Margarets. David's split hit emergency speed. No contact shield up. His stage scars mending in group shares. Our block bash 2 weeks post cuffs. A raucous exhale grill smoking. Tails traded. Elena crowned interim boss with anti-scam steel in her spine. Trials 6 months on. Sweltering September 2025. Crammed the gallery as Margaret, Pro SE and Farrell, ranted 3-hour conspiracies. The bench hammering gavels like thunder. Prosecutors parade crushed. Timelines taut. Vids unblinking her grave-digging soliloquy. Receipts chaining pre-med. 47 oaths on her firebomb vow. Victim volleys wrecked Dalton's girl's cancer. A Margaret myth. Carver's stroke a sympathy sieve. David stand. A soul bear gutting. Mirror drills for coughs and canes. Obituary hunts for prey. Her vice of violence and vaults. Fear glued me silenced torch helpers too. 45 minutes. Jury back. Guilty symphony. Bench dropped 18 months county time. For 100K restitution via wage whips. 5-year leash. HOA exile eternal. Psyche digs mandatory. 500 victim hours. Ironies bite. A year hence. She's slinging shifts at the corner mart. Garnished to bones. Forcing, welcome back. To the faces, she'd fleeced our rebuilt haven mocking from afar. We broke ground unscarred. Sarah and I raising walls amid cheers. The hood forged tighter. Jax and Elena's patrolling scams countywide. David's a beacon for the caged. Margaret? Jotting jail screeds for a witch hunt. Tome publishers spat on. Her mirror still whispering alibis to ghosts. But here's the rub that keeps me up. Was Margaret a monster born, or molded by a system that crowns Karens with clipboards? Should HOAs be torched wholesale, or just the players? And David hero, or enabler till the end? Ever pitted a puppet who pulled his own strings too late? Drop your unfiltered takes below, hit like if this scorched you, and subscribe for more neighborhood nightmares that hit too close. What's your wildest tyrant tale? Spill a Turi all ears.